Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends who care about my Millete or
Good
Millete,
morning.
if whether depending on how it's pronounced, the correct way it's pronounced. And I see my friends in chat talking about how JR and JP spell their name. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. So we're here for day 7 of the preliminary hearing of Larry Millete. Millete. The feed has not started yet. Hopefully, we won't have all the technical difficulties that we had yesterday. Good morning, Liz. Good morning, Isaias. Good morning, Betty, and anybody else who's joining at the moment. Yes, I'm here. I'm here in all my morning glory. Can't do cameras in the morning until I've had a little more coffee. Um, I hope you all had a great evening, or you're having an great afternoon, night, morning, wherever you are. Are you all? Well, I don't. Hey, Marie, I don't want to ask where you all live. I don't want to dox you. I just hope that wherever you are happy and as happy as you possibly can be. But if not, this is a good place to be. We aren't gonna make you feel any worse here, I don't think. That's my goal. Um I thought it might be instructive to there was a recap done the other day on like the timeline. Yeah, that's right. It is noon East Coast. Um there was a timeline done recently by the same channel that's doing all this live streaming. They seem to care, I think, the most about this case, the local CBS. So I'm going to share that. Let's watch it together so we can be reminded of anything that we may have forgotten. Where is that? Huh. There it is.
Within days of Maya Millete going missing on January 7th, 2021, her family was organizing search efforts and holding vigils. Her Jeep was left parked at the home she shared with her husband and 3 kids near San Miguel Mountain in Chula Vista.
She's always on her phone, but her phone was been off like the whole day Friday.
The family soon discovered Maya had contacted a divorce attorney the same day she went missing. That night, a surveillance camera recorded loud bangs in the neighborhood, sounding like gunshots. The day after that, Larry drove away with his 4-year-old son in a Lexus SUV. He was gone for 12 hours, and Larry's cell phone was turned off all day, according to police. Larry Millete was noticeably absent from the ensuing search efforts for his wife. In a phone interview with CBS 8 1 week after Maya went missing, he said he loved her.
Oh, I love everything about her. She's very smart, kind, basically just herself, her personality, just everything.
Over the next few months, police served 3 search warrants on the Millete house, taking Larry's cell phone and seizing his entire collection of firearms. Police say they found evidence that Larry had been hiring online spellcasters, asking if they could make his wife break a bone or have.
I just had to stop on that altar. I mean, we've been talking about this a little bit as we've been watching the hearing. Isn't that gross? I mean, the in a Facebook group, someone interpreted what the different symbols mean, and um, somebody was saying that the red on all that stuff is blood spatter. and who knows whose blood that is. It's just, and I thought it was so strong when her sister-in-law Genesis was asked, have you ever helped him, or, have you ever gotten involved? And she was absolutely not. I told him to go to our pastor. That's really against their religion. But anyway, we'll keep.
Have an accident. Officers then made their move, arresting Larry Millete on October 19th, 2021, 9 months after Maya went missing.
There has been no record of any violence whatsoever in his entire life.
At a hearing in November of last year, a judge ordered Millete held without bail. His attorney argued there was no evidence. Held without bail. Last year, a judge
Entire violence whatsoever. No record of any.
I wanted to go back to that because I wanted to go back to that and hear exactly what she said. Because you hear very carefully that she says there has been no record of violence in his entire life. Well, there's no record because when he did commit violence, he was a juvenile, right? And we do know there was violence in his past, right? Lester, I've been trying to figure that out, and I remember that, that for that exact reason, I've been trying to figure out what time they were going to start, because she was saying she had those 2 appointments, but the news said that they were going to start at 9 today still. Of course, the news isn't always right. We have to accept that. They're not always right. They get things wrong too. They're human beings. So it may be that they're starting at 9:30. I'm not sure. So, but did you hear how she said there's no record? Well, there isn't a record because he was a juvenile when it happened. Yes, he does, Liz. Yes, he does. Hold on.
Violence whatsoever in his entire life.
At a hearing in November of last year, a judge ordered Millete held without bail. His attorney argued there was no evidence that Maya was dead.
She left on her own volition. A husband has not hurt her, not even once, even though she was unfaithful.
That's just abhorrent. It's just abhorrent that, they didn't have any proof that she was unfaithful. The only evidence that she was unfaithful was Larry's testimony. And he's a liar. Larry is a freaking liar. And I wonder if this woman is yet, regretting that she has decided to represent this client, because it sure doesn't work for her. It sure doesn't work for her. Yep, if those walls could talk, that's for sure. Let me see if there's, I'm still checking to see if the live feed has started. It'll be interesting to see if they really do, what time they actually really do start. Does anybody want to start a pool for what time they do start? By the way, please remember to hit the like button, consider becoming a member, all that good YouTubey stuff. For let's see. This is when they served the search warrant. at a couple of the places.
News 8 has learned investigators seized guns and other evidence this month from a house in San Diego. As David Gottfredson reports, a search warrant targeted the home of her husband's aunt and uncle.
The house on Viewcrest Drive in Encanto is within San Diego city limits. But on April 1st, Chula Vista police showed up to serve a search warrant, seizing about a half dozen long rifles and other evidence, according to neighbors who recorded this video of the police activity. It shows marked and unmarked police vehicles in the street and investigators putting evidence into a van. Neighbors say officers were on scene for a couple hours in the middle of the day. The house is owned by 66-year-old Ricky Lincoln, better known as Uncle Ricky to Larry Millete, the husband of Maya Millete, a missing mother of 3 from Chula Vista. Uncle Ricky lives in the house where the search warrant was served with Larry Milliete's aunt, Kathy Lincoln. On Monday, Uncle Ricky and Aunt Kathy were seen dropping off one of the children at the Millete house. Police are looking at surveillance video from the neighborhood on the evening of January 7th when Maya Millete went missing and when 6 loud bangs rang out around 10 p.m. Investigators also are trying to identify vehicles seen driving around the neighborhood during the early morning hours of Friday, January 8th. Chula Vista police confirmed they did serve a search warrant at that house in Encanto on April 1st, but we do not know how it relates to the investigation. Ricky and Kathy Lincoln did not respond to messages seeking comment for this report, and I want to stress they have not been named suspects in this case. Carlo?
So my understanding, though, is that when they serve the search warrant on that house, that's where the refrigerator came out, or the freezer, that freezer that we think was used. I did pick that up, Liz, that May she took a rank of, a lesser rank, the GS-13 rank, but she got a pay increase. And I remember the supervisor that hired her at the new place saying that because they really valued her. She was a, somebody they were basically recruiting. The vehicle part is super suspicious. Yeah. The theme that keeps recurring, May is lucky. Yeah, exactly. I was about to address that because, and that was said in the, I'm going to put this back up here. The thing that keeps recurring, May is lucky because Larry didn't inflict violence, always hinting that he had every reason and right to harm her, and he's some great guy because he did. Yeah, no, as if you should get a prize for doing the right thing, as if you should get a prize for being a good person when you don't harm somebody when you've been harmed. When you've been harmed by somebody, that doesn't give you the right to inflict worse harm on them. So let's say he had been harmed by her having an affair, that does not give him the right to inflict worse harm on her. I mean, that's just the way it works, so, but he's expecting like a brownie points. I like that's the way that kind of a mind works, right? No, I've had, relationships with people where, they'll, we get in a fight and they say, and I say, this is the thing that hurts. And they say, okay, I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again. And then the next time we get in a fight, they don't do that again. And then they're like, see, I didn't do it again. And I'm like, well, that's just what you're supposed to do as a human being. Are you expecting me to give you a prize for that? Like, I'm supposed to give you some special recognition for not being an asshole? Like, no, I'm sorry. That's just not, that's not good teaching. Let's see if the feed is up yet. Come on, feed. Nope, not quite yet. I'm going to find. Sorry, I'm just trying to find if there's a this, like, in his deluded mind, he wants to continue not only painting her as horrible, but he wants to be exalted and praised for allegedly not beating and harm. Yeah, I mean it's like a warped reward system, right? Oh, this will be interesting. Here, let's watch this one.
It has been nearly 4 months now since Chula Vista mother Maya Millete went missing. And this weekend, the community will be celebrating her on her 40th birthday.
Yeah, this is as we learn new information about her husband's criminal past. News 8's Chris Groh live in Chula Vista now with an update for us. Chris?
Good morning, Eric and Netta. And we have this confirmed to us by a number of sources. News 8 did that Larry Millete, back on April 30th, as in today, but back in 1997, was involved in a gang-related stabbing. Now, let's run through what we know so far about this incident that took place. Now, it took place on McDonald's on Paradise Valley Road in San Diego's Bay Terraces neighborhood. The teenage victim was rushed to the hospital with multiple stab wounds, but he survived the attack. We're told that it was Larry who was arrested for the stabbing. Allegedly, he was booked in a juvenile hall on a charge of assault with a deadly weapon. The court records are sealed, but family members told us that after his release, Larry moved to Hawaii with his parents. That's where he met Maya, his future wife. The two got married as teens. Larry then went on to join the Navy, and aside from a couple of traffic tickets, there were apparently no more run-ins with the law. However, Maya went missing on January 7th, and loud bangs that sound like gunshots could be heard that night. And the next day, Larry was nowhere to be found for 12 hours. Larry hasn't been named a suspect by Chula Vista police, but attorney Billy Little, who's investigating the case for Maya's family, says this alleged stabbing incident is something to pay attention to.
It's my understanding this was a gang-related incident, that there were multiple other people around. He was taken into custody as a juvenile.
And this is what is happening this weekend. Saturday, Maya's family will be celebrating her birthday. And then on Sunday, there will be a search for her as well. Now, back to Larry. We did reach out to him, and we did not hear back. Multiple times we tried to contact him. But if you know anything about Maya's disappearance, it's important that you call the Chula Vista Police Department. Eric.
See, so that's why Ms. Bonita, oh Elaine, that's why she had to be so careful with that wording in that arraignment, or whatever that was. I think that was an arraignment. She had to say there's no record, because she couldn't say he's never been violent. She couldn't say that. She had to say there's not a record of violence, because he has been violent and the record is sealed. And she knows that everybody, in his around him knows that he spent some time in juvie for this, that his family had to move to, or had to, but they chose to move to Hawaii. Family member under oath on the stand said Larry intentionally hit a man at the ski hill parking lot. That's right. Exactly. That was, we shouldn't forget that testimony where Mari Chris talks about how he intentionally hit a man with his car because he was getting pissed off at the parking attendant because he couldn't get by. I mean, I wonder if maybe, let's see. I'm looking for that one moment where she talks about that in the, this might be it. Hold on just one moment.
She said actually is just, be ready. It's going to be a messy divorce. If something happens to me, that's going to be Larry.
We begin tonight with strong words from the sister of a Chula Vista mother who disappeared more than 2 years ago.
We're talking about Maya Millete, whose husband Larry is accused of killing her. During a preliminary hearing today, Maya's sister testified for hours about their marriage. And our Zara Barker starts us off live from downtown San Diego with what else played out in court today. Zara.
Yeah, there was definitely more emotion in the courtroom today than what we saw yesterday on the first day of this preliminary hearing. Now, court just recessed for day 2 about 30 minutes ago, and Maya's sister, Mary Chris Droulet, was up on the stand for more than 4 hours testifying mainly about the relationship and the marriage that she saw between Maya and Larry Millete and the relationship that they had with their 3 kids. She said in the marriage, everything seemed fine for the nearly 2 decades they were together up until about 2020. She said about halfway through that year, she could tell something was off and they began fighting a lot. Now, we want to show you some text messages that were entered in as evidence in this case just earlier today. Maya texted her 2 sisters asking to borrow $10,000 for a divorce attorney and offered to pawn off her Rolexes and Louis Vuitton purses, but she said only ones Larry would not know were missing. This text was sent on January 4th of 2021, just 3 days before she disappeared. The sisters offered to split the divorce fees, and Maya responded that she had already consulted 2 lawyers that day. Mary Chris then testified on January 9th after not hearing from Maya for several days. She drove to Chula Vista from her home in Riverside County and found Larry at the home with their kids, but no sign of Maya. She testified that Larry did not seem to
just, be ready. It's going to be a messy divorce. If something happens to me, it's going to be Larry. Because at that time, I was scared for her too, but I just told her, be careful.
Why would you say that?
Because I know.
You solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and here we are. Yeah, I agree with that letter.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Please state your name and spell your last name for record.
It's Jesse Vicente, and that's Vicente.
And good morning.
Morning.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Detective Vicente, where do you work?
I work for the city of Chula Vista, the Chula Vista Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer?
16 years.
What's your current assignment?
I work as a detective for the Crimes of Violence unit.
What was your assignment prior to becoming a detective with the Crimes of Violence unit?
I worked as a patrol officer. I worked as a special investigations unit detective, and I had collateral duties such as the psychological emergency response team and the special weapons and tactics team.
Tell us a little bit about the Crimes of Violence team. How does that work with the Chula Vista Police Department?
So the Crimes of Violence unit, they handle crimes against violent crimes such as homicides, robbery, kidnappings, assaults. We investigate suspicious deaths and missing persons.
And murder?
Yes.
How many people are in the Crimes of Violence unit?
We have 10. So we have 8 detectives, a sergeant, and a community service officer. The detectives are broken up into 2 teams of 4.
In January of 2021, whose team? What was your team in the crimes of violence unit?
It consisted of myself, Detective McIver, who was my partner, as well as Detective Ruiz and Detective Rosario.
Early January of 2021, did you become involved in a case involving someone by the name of Millete?
Yes.
How did that come about?
On January 11th, I showed up to work and I ran into Officer Culver. Officer Culver was getting off of his shift from patrol that weekend, and I had a conversation with him about how the weekend went. He proceeded to tell me about this missing persons case that they had taken over the weekend, and he felt that it was suspicious and wanted me to take a look at the case.
And did you begin then looking into the case at that point?
Yes.
What did you do first?
I first began reviewing the reports by the officers. I started looking at body-worn camera footage of their interviews and their contact at the house.
When you say they, you mean the patrol officers?
Correct.
Go ahead.
Yep. And then I initially just I just started from the beginning. I started an investigation.
Did you speak with May's sister, Mary Chris?
Yes.
What else did you do?
I began double checking to see if I could locate May. I began calling, friends, family members to see if she had shown up anywhere else. I also conducted secondary checks of hospitals, jails. I even went to the extent to check local hospital or local hotels in the area to see if she had just checked in somewhere else for the night.
And did you locate her?
No.
Among the witnesses you spoke to, did you and or members of your team speak to colleagues, supervisors that May had at work?
Yes.
Friends?
Yes.
Family members?
Yes.
Did you, during the course of your investigation, receive consent from let me ask you this. Did you have contact at some point with May Millete's husband, Larry Millete?
Yes.
Do you see him here in court today?
Yes.
Could you point to him and tell us what he's wearing for the record?
He's seated to my right, is wearing a black suit and a white mask.
During the investigation,
The record will reflect he's identified.
thank you, Your Honor. During the investigation, did the defendant consent to a download of his cell phone?
Yes.
When was that?
That was January 13th, 2021.
Did you go to his house to retrieve his cell phone?
Yes.
And then what did you do once you got the cell phone?
I brought the cell phone to the Chula Vista Police Department and gave it to our digital evidence unit.
And what's the purpose of providing it to the digital evidence unit?
They are the experts and they will forensically download the phone and put it in a format so that we can view it.
Did you speak with a digital forensic evidence individual by the name of Jackie Barajas?
Yes.
And is she the person who conducted the forensic download of the cell phone?
Yes.
And then did she provide you with a copy of that forensic download?
She did.
And was that download then analyzed by you and other investigators in the case?
Yes.
In addition to, and at that point too, did other members of your team begin to assist taking interviews?
Yes.
Did you and members of your team also look for surveillance video in the neighborhood?
Yes.
To show you, Your Honor, may I approach the witness to direct him to Court's Exhibit 26?
You may. You may. We're going to go off that for a second. I lost the connection.
I wonder if he's trying to look like Johnny Depp with the hair back. Just kidding. See how it kind of always looks like she's not, maybe not right now, but Bonita always has a little bit of like a, she's kind of like smirking. I don't know. It just, maybe it's just me.
Yes, up and running. The system looted me out last night. Right. Back on the record.
Detective, do you see in front of you on that binder exhibit 26-1?
Yes.
And do you recognize what 26-1 is depicting?
Yes.
Showing you up on the screen 26-1, do you recognize 26-1 up on the screen to be the same exhibit that's in the binder?
Yes.
What are we looking at in this exhibit?
This is an overview of
Hey,
map of me and Larry's neighborhood,
What is that neighborhood referred to?
San Miguel Ranch.
And where we see a yellow box with a red arrow pointing to 2413 Paseo Los Gatos, does that accurately indicate where the Millete house is located on that street?
Yes.
And can you kind of, actually, is there a laser pointer up at the?
Yes.
Could you kind of just orientate us to the area a little bit in terms of the streets and the street names?
Yes. So Paseo Los Gatos. I don't think the.
I agree, Liz. I think
pointer.
he's, in his own mind, he thinks he's justified, even though he knows it's
Here it goes. Here it goes.
objectively
So,
wrong and
so
against the law.
this here is Paseo Los Gatos. It runs north, south, and then it curves west to east to where it intersects with Paseo Veracruz. The street to the south, this is Calle La Quinta, and then the street to the east is going to be Plaza Iva.
For the record.
Yes, so you said the street to the east, Plaza Eva, and you indicated the street that we see to the right of the photograph that ends in a cul-de-sac. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
And the street that Plaza Eva comes off from, that was the street that you indicated as Calle La Quinta?
Correct.
So, for example, if you're at the top of the cul-de-sac on Plaza Eva and came down towards Calle La Quinta and then you turned right, what would be the first street that you would come to?
Paseo Los Gatos.
Okay. And then Paseo Los Gatos would be the street just to the left as we look at the photograph of the yellow box.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And we then kind of traveled that street to the top of the screen and turned left. Does that continue to be Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
And then as it curves around, now looking at the very far left of the screen, it appears that there's kind of like a field or a park maybe on the very far left of the photograph.
Yes.
What is that?
That is San Miguel Park.
So the street that runs just parallel or just, I guess, adjacent to San Miguel Park, what is that street?
Paseo Veracruz.
So if you were to go up Paseo Los Gatos towards the top of the screen, turn left, come back down adjacent to the park, and then turn left again, you would be back on Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
I can't remember all these, but as you go along, we'll see. I know where Paseo Los Gatos is.
For right now, I think that's the best starting point. Did your team obtain surveillance video from a location on Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
And where, looking at 26-2, do you see the address where you?
First off, on 26-1, show me the street again.
You're looking for Calle La Quinta?
The one she was just talking about.
Yes. So this is Calle La Quinta here.
And that's, just for the record, spelled CALLE new word LA, new word QUINTA. Looking at 26-2, do you see down at the left, bottom left of the photograph, 338 Calle La Quinta in a box?
Yes.
And is that the accurate location of the address 338 Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
Did you obtain surveillance video from that location?
We did.
Did you also obtain surveillance footage from 2409 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
And where is 2409 located in relation to the Millete house?
So if you're facing the Millete household, that is the house to the left if you're facing it, or north. So right next door to the north.
And then at the top, kind of as the street Paseo Los Gatos curves around to the left, at the top of the photograph, do you see 2396 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
And did you obtain some surveillance footage from that location?
Yes.
And does 26-2 up on the screen accurately depict the exhibit that's in front of you in the binder?
Yes.
Tell us about finding the surveillance footage from 338 Calle La Quinta.
So Calle La Quinta, they have a Nest security system. What we discovered with this house was that it had continuous recording.
And have you been to that house and seen the location of the camera?
Yes.
Looking at 26-3, is that the same?
It is the same photo that's on the screen.
And that's which house again? It's 338.
Calle La Quinta.
And so just kind of orientating back to 26-2, we see at the bottom 338 Calle La Quinta with kind of a little icon of a camera with a little yellow kind of angled cone. Is that where you retrieved video from 338 Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
And so then looking at 26-3, what are we looking at in this photograph?
So the red circle is depicting where the camera is mounted.
And this would be a photograph of the front of 338 Calle La Quinta?
Correct.
Did you or members of your team go to this address to retrieve this surveillance footage?
We remotely obtained video from this residence.
Can you explain a little bit how the Nest camera works?
So the Nest camera, it's a continuous recording, and then it stores the video on a cloud. So the homeowner allowed us to view videos from his Nest security camera system and provided us with his username and password so that we could access the camera footage.
Can you explain, did you yourself download the footage?
No.
Who downloaded the footage?
At the time, it was Sergeant Hoyos and Detective Arnold.
And did you speak with both of them in preparation for testifying today?
Yes.
And did they explain to you how they went about downloading the surveillance footage?
Yes.
And can you explain that to us?
So I provided them with the username and password, and they were able to download 1 hour increments of footage from January 7th at approximately 4 p.m. till police arrive in the early morning hours of January 10th.
And when they downloaded this footage, did they save it and label these particular files?
Yes.
And did they indicate whether or not the date and time, did they somehow note the date and time when they saved these files?
Yes.
How so?
So each file name for the video that they downloaded was labeled with the date and the start time of the video.
And for example, can you give us an example of how a file might have been labeled?
Yeah, so the first file would have been labeled January 7th, 2021 at 3:59 p.m.
And then how long was that clip or that file?
That file was 1 hour long, and the reason why it was only an hour long was because that was the capability of the system. We couldn't download it all continuously, so it had to be downloaded in hour increments.
And have you reviewed that surveillance footage?
Yes.
Now, did you notice when you reviewed the footage that there was a gap in time on one of the files?
Yes.
Which file was that?
So that was from January 8th. It was missing 7 minutes of video.
From what time frame?
Essentially from 12:27 a.m. till 12:34 a.m. in the early morning hours of January 8th.
Did you speak with the owner, 338 Kylie Quinta, about that 7-minute gap?
Yes.
Was he able to explain why there was a 7-minute gap?
He was not sure why that part of the video was missing. His best explanation was that there could have been like a Wi-Fi outage, but in looking at his system from prior days, there are gaps in the recordings. So he assumes that it continuously records, but there are gaps in the video which he cannot explain.
And did you actually go and review some kind of spot check a little bit the surveillance footage or his Nest camera surveillance to see if this had happened on other occasions?
Yes.
And is it fair to say it's just kind of a sporadic, random occurrence?
Yes.
Other than that 7 minutes, did you obtain continuous recording, however, from the time frame that you indicated, 3:59 p.m. on January 7th until the police arrived the early morning of January 10th?
Yes.
You indicated you also obtained surveillance footage. Well, let me just show you then 26-4 up on the screen. Is that the same exhibit that's shown, that's in the binder?
Yes.
And is this the vantage or the angle that camera that you indicated was mounted in 26-3 is what we see in 26-4, the actual angle or vantage point of that camera?
Yes.
In fact, is this a screenshot from that camera?
Yes.
And did you, when you reviewed the surveillance footage, were you able to see certain activity that helped you to corroborate the date and time?
Yes.
Looking at 26-5, do you recognize what we see in this exhibit?
Yes, that is a photo of when police are arriving.
And so I think you had indicated files were saved kind of 3:59. Is it fair to say then 4:59, 5:59, 6:59, and successively they would be saved in that manner?
Yes.
And so this exhibit 26-5, is this from the file that was stamped January 9th, 2021 at 11:59 p.m.?
Yes.
So determining the time, how would you then determine the time?
Did you give each file a number? Or just
It was labeled with the date and time. That's how it was. We didn't do any additional labeling to the file. So looking at this here, this is 44 minutes into the video, 44 minutes and 34 seconds into the video, police are arriving, and that matches up with our call for service time that we received.
So you see a couple of patrol cars in this still from this video footage?
Yes.
And that would be consistent with the patrol officers who responded to the Millete house the early morning of January the 10th?
Correct.
I'm wondering if anybody's ever going to authenticate that those gunshot audio from one of the neighbors' cameras. Just trying to figure out what they're gonna. Basically, what we've heard now is that there were minutes, important minutes missing from
Viewed
Larry.
the video from 338 Kyla Quinta. Did you notice something significant or of interest to your investigation in the early morning of January 8th, approximately 6 o'clock a.m.?
Yes.
And what was that?
A person walks out of 2413 Paseo Los Gatos, is in and out of the car that's parked in the driveway, which is backed in. The vehicle pulls out onto the street and then backs and repositions the vehicle closer to the house.
Very Chris Watts-ish.
What happens next in the video?
At approximately, can you rephrase the question?
Yes. So, did you continue watching the video then as you see this person, the car get repositioned?
Yes, the car is repositioned at approximately 6 o'clock a.m. and then at 6:45 a.m. the vehicle leaves.
And looking at the video, are you able to tell what the vehicle is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a Lexus SUV.
Same time of morning too.
Color? You can tell.
Black in color.
Showing you 26-6. And not a quick, could I bother you to turn down the lights just slightly? 26-6. Do you recognize this exhibit up on the screen to be
I didn't know that.
same exhibit in the binder?
Yes.
And can you tell us what the red square is representing?
The red square represents the front of the Millete household.
And would this be consistent with the area where you observed some movement in the front of the house and then the car reposition?
Yes.
Did you observe that vehicle return at any point that day?
Yes. At approximately 6:06 p.m.
All right, this is
Like
still
12
26-6.
hours.
What is the time? Exactly.
This is a still from January 8th, 2021, just before 6 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you, Your Honor, may I approach the witness with an exhibit?
Yes.
Detective, showing you what has been marked as Court's Exhibit 43 for identification, and I'm going to take this CD out of the sleeve and show it to you. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
What is that?
It's the surveillance video from January 8th of the Lexus.
And is it a compilation of some clips from that surveillance footage?
Yes.
Okay. what is it? If you could describe for us what is on that video.
So on that video, it's a compilation of videos from different residences in the area showing May's movements on January 7th. And then, sorry, I apologize. Can you rephrase?
Yes, if you want to take a look at that exhibit, is that video of the Lexus?
Sorry, yes. This is video of the Lexus. This is video of what I just described, of the vehicle pulling out into the street and then pulling back closer to the residence.
And in the video, the disc that is in front of you that you've already reviewed prior to testifying today, is there kind of a red line that we will see when we watch this video?
Yes.
And what is the red line indicating?
The red line indicates where it was parked initially, and then you'll see where the vehicle moves closer to the residence.
And to be clear, the red line was not part of the original video.
Correct.
And that was that was added by someone from my office.
Yes.
And when we look at the red light, is it kind of in line with the back tail light of the car?
Yes.
And obviously, we're not going to watch an hour's worth of video. Does once the car kind of repositions, at some point, then does the video essentially transition into a later period of time that morning?
Yes.
Okay, and what do we see during the latter part then of the video that we're about to watch?
You'll see the vehicle then leave at 6:45, approximately 6:45 a.m. It'll go southbound on Paseo Los Gatos and then southeast onto Calle La Quinta.
So in other words, when it comes, it will drive towards the 338 Calle La Quinta,
Correct.
and then does it turn left or right?
Left.
And then later in the video, what will we see?
We will see the Lexus return at 6 p.m., approximately 6 p.m.
And it's about 11, Your Honor, just so the court's aware, it's about 11 or so minutes long.
Okay.
And just to be clear, you recognize, you reviewed this video prior to coming to court today, and you recognize your initials and date on that particular disc?
Yes.
Did you initial and date it when you reviewed it?
Yes, January 9th.
Lester, at first he said he went to work, but then he said he drove around all day with his kids.
I have the video loaded onto the iPad, which I think is a bit smoother to play than sometimes when you put this in a disk drive. So I think she's agreed to stipulate that what I'm about to play is a copy of Court's Exhibit 43.
So secret.
Noted for the record. And the reason why you have the time that Lexus is leaving and the time that it's coming back, I take it that the vehicle doesn't return between those times.
Correct, Your Honor.
the video is now playing. Counsel, can you have the witness tell me where I should be looking?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought the square that we had indicated at the beginning with the points, the area of interest is go back.
Well, you can just use the laser pointer and point to it. So I know, obviously at some point something's gonna start moving, but
Okay.
if I have a clue ahead of time, I can be on the lookout.
Detective Vicente, can you, using the laser pointer, just indicate where it is that we should be focusing our eyes while we watch this video?
And right now it's stopped at 57 seconds.
Yes. So if you look here, this is the fence line between 2413 and 2417. So this is the beginning of their house. You want to pay attention to this area here, which is the driveway. There's two vehicles parked here. Your view is partially blocked here, but this is the area that you're looking at here. You want to focus on.
Go on.
There appears to be, is it fair to say there's essentially a retaining wall between the house on the corner and the Millete house?
Yes.
And so on the other side of the retaining wall, there's kind of like a courtyard area in the front of the Millete house,
Yes.
and then the driveway.
Correct.
And the neighboring property has, next to the retaining wall, on the neighbor's side has a, looks like a white SUV.
Yes.
So I'm wearing it.
Right, Liz. It always kind of made me wonder if Larry studied that case.
Counsel, do you want to stop along the way at certain points and note for the record what's just occurred?
Sure, so I just stopped it at 217. Detective Vicente, can you tell us, just describe what we've just watched?
So that was the person entering the dark SUV, which pulled out onto the street. There was an indicator showing where the red taillight was at the beginning when they started the vehicle, and then the vehicle is now backed in closer to the garage area of the Millete household.
Can you tell, based on your knowledge of the house, you've been to the house several times?
Yes.
Can you tell based on your knowledge of the house at all how far back that Lexus pulls into towards the garage?
It just pulls in a couple feet closer to the resident.
And so you can't tell, or do you know whether or not it actually pulls into the garage?
I can't tell.
All right, I'll go ahead and play a little bit more of video. and then stop it to,
Okay.
and then do.
I have a question, I'm sorry. You can't tell how far it pulled back in, but did it pull back to the same place that it was originally, or did it appear as if it was closer or farther away when it went back to?
It appeared that it was closer to the residence.
And just to be clear, the red taillight indicator was accurately reflecting where the taillight was when the car was originally in the driveway.
Correct.
So when we watch the video using that taillight indicator, we can see how far back the car pulls towards the garage.
Yes.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, resuming from 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Go ahead and stop it there. It's 3:25. Did you see an individual kind of turn the corner there at San Los Gatos and Calle Quinta?
Yes.
And can you just describe for us what you observed regarding that individual?
It appears that it was a person that was on a jog who was westbound on Calle Quinta and goes north onto Paseo Los Gatos.
Did that person stop at all?
No.
That person appeared to, can you tell whether or not that person, for example, has headphones on?
No.
There's no contact, in other words, between that person and any individual at 2413 Paseo Los Gatos?
Correct.
Doesn't appear that way to you.
Does not.
Continuing from 3:25.
I've never understood that either, Lester. I'm just trying to make it as big as possible so you guys can see it.
And stopping it at 5:08. Do we still see some movement around the vehicle?
Yeah, I'm assuming so
Yes.
too.
Yes.
But the vehicle still is stationary at this point.
That's correct.
Continuing on then from 5:08.
And by the vehicle, we are referring to the Lexus SUV.
Yes.
Yeah, Liz, and at first that's what he told his family, and then he changed it to he was with his son all day, and then he basically just stuck with that. I sure hope they don't put any of the kids on the stand. I sure hope they don't need to.
Just go ahead and stop it at 6:52. Detective, did you notice any lights at the vehicle, the Lexus again in the driveway as we are watching the video?
Yes.
Describe, if you can, what we just kind of observed.
So there was a person in and around, kind of near the vehicle, and it appears that they activate the alarm or security device for the vehicle. You can hear an audible beep, and the lights flash on the vehicle.
Continuing then for 6:52.
You know, if they're locking it or unlocking it based on what you have previously seen.
I believe he's locking it.
They are.
The person is locking the vehicle.
So playing from 6:53. And now we just kind of panned out, and now the timer or the video is depicting 6:43 a.m. The portion that we are about to watch now is that we've kind of fast forwarded several minutes to 6:43 in the morning.
Correct.
And so the next portion that we are about to watch is that an accurate time frame for what we're about to watch?
Yes.
And to clear up any confusion on the record, you stopped it at 6 minutes and 52 seconds into the video, and that's the time into the video, not the actual daytime hour.
Well, I've actually stopped it at 7:04. I had just started playing it from 6:52. He had just described what we had last seen, and I've stopped it now at 7:04. And yes, up on the screen, it says 6:43 a.m.
So you stopped it at 7 minutes and 4 seconds into the video.
Correct.
Which has no relation to the time of day.
Correct.
And now we're looking at, what's it stopped at on the video?
On the video, well, on the actual exhibit, it stopped at 7 minutes 4 seconds.
Okay, gotcha.
Up on the screen, however, as indicated by the detective, what we're about to watch occurs at around 6:43 a.m. January 8th.
Okay, just wanting to make sure that it's understood.
So I will begin, resume the video again.
I have a bit of an understanding of how it happens, Liz, but it makes me sick. My dad is I don't know that he's committed any murders, but I know that he's done horrible, horrible things. And he tried to brainwash me like that.
Council, are there any cars in here that we can know? Better show. You didn't have to stop necessarily, but.
Detective, do you see any other cars associated with the Millete residence in the video? And I've stopped it at 8 minutes, 14 seconds.
Yes.
Well, what do you see?
So here, just north of the residence, along the east curb line, that Jeep, that's going to be May's Jeep. To the south on the sidewalk, you'll see a black van. That's going to be their Toyota Sienna.
Welcome August May.
Sorry, the Millete's vehicle, Toyota Sienna. And then on the north side of the driveway, this is the Millete's Toyota truck.
They had 4 vehicles at the time.
Correct.
The Toyota truck is in the garage. It's in the driveway.
In the driveway, on the north side of the driveway.
So resuming now, 8 minutes, 14 seconds into the video. I'll begin playing again.
Well, Lester, you would hope that maybe some cadaver dogs hit on the car, or maybe the freezer that was in the car. And here goes the departure, I guess. Yeah, there's goes the Lexus. It's interesting. It looked like he was almost going to go right, and then he turned left instead. Was he not sure where to
I just
go?
stopped it at 9:46, 9 minutes, 46 seconds into the video. What did we just see?
So you observed a person deactivate the alarm to the Lexus, enter it. They're seated in the, appears that they're seated in the Lexus for several minutes. The Lexus then pulls out onto Paseo Los Gatos, goes southbound. It appears that the vehicle was indicating that he was going to go right onto Calle La Quinta, but then appeared that the driver changed his mind and went left onto Calle La Quinta.
I'm sorry, why do you believe that the driver changed the mind?
Just of the positioning of the car, the way it was angled as it approached the T intersection, it appeared that it was going to go right. And then you can see in the video that the car then makes a left turn after it committed to the right turn.
It committed to the left turn.
Why is it that the camera seems to almost zoom out as the vehicle is exiting the garage?
That was enhanced to get a closer view of the vehicle.
So to be clear, that's not the way the video is when the surveillance footage was captured by your team. That's not the way the video is captured. It indicated scaled. That was done by someone from my office who created this video.
Correct.
But it still accurately portrays what was captured in the surveillance footage that you and your team retrieved from 338 Coyote.
Yes.
So we are now stopped at 9 minutes, 46 seconds into the video. There is the screen is black and it says 6:06 p.m. What are we about to now watch on the video?
This is when the Lexus returns back home at this time.
And that's an accurate time stamp approximately of when the Lexus returns back to the home on Paseo Los Gatos.
Yes.
And again, just to be clear, in watching this video, we've watched all of the footage of the 338 Calle Quinta surveillance footage.
Yes.
Does the black Lexus ever return during the day?
No.
On January 8th?
It does not.
So I'll resume playing the video at this point, 9 minutes, 46 seconds into the video with the 6:06 p.m. timestamp up on the screen.
And counsel, perhaps I missed it. Did you ask the witness how he confirmed the accuracy of the time on the video?
I think I did, but I can ask again. Did you review all of the surveillance footage?
Yes.
And your team, when your team, either Detective Sergeant Hoyos or Detective Arnold, saved these files when they downloaded each of the files, they saved them with a date and time on the file.
Correct. And I also verified it with the homeowner that the date and time was correct. And I matched it up with the time of arrival when police arrived.
And was there, and so then when viewing the video, you're familiar with these video segments that we just watched from viewing the original surveillance footage, correct?
Yes.
And did you verify that these dates and times are accurate in the exhibit that we've been watching?
Yes.
Thank you.
So again, starting now 9 minutes, 47 seconds into the video with the timestamp of 6:06 p.m. being the indicator of the time frame of video we are about to observe.
The thing is that the death penalty doesn't really exist in California, so he'd be more fighting for not being in prison for life, and he may, I don't know, that might be a different kind of fight for him. I don't know. Yeah, I think Chad and Lawyer are both trying to throw each other under the bus. Bless you.
And the video is concluded. Detective, if you can just kind of describe for us what we just saw in that last minute or so.
It ends at 11 minutes and 59 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that was video of the Lexus SUV returning. It pulls back onto Paseo Los Gatos and backs into the driveway. There's a person seen around the driver's side into the rear of the vehicle. And the video then stops.
And in the video, we also see a map in the bottom left corner. Again, that was also not there, but was placed there by the person who prepared the video.
Yes.
But does that map at the bottom left corner accurately depict the map we had actually observed earlier in exhibit? I believe it was 26-2 that indicated the different areas of surveillance footage and the kind of overview of the neighborhood.
Yes.
When the Lexus, when there's first some activity at the Lexus in the early morning, just around 6 a.m., was it light or dark out?
It was dark.
And when the vehicle returns, is it light or dark out?
Dark.
Did your team also obtain video surveillance from 24/17 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
Showing you towards exhibit 26-8, you see the box in yellow kind of towards the bottom indicating 24/17 Paseo Los Gatos.
Yes.
Does that accurately indicate where that address is located, where that house is located?
Yes.
And so just, if you could describe for us where 24/17 is in relation to the Millete house.
So 24/17 is directly next door to the south of the Millete household.
And did you review surveillance footage from this location?
Yes.
And did other members of your team also assist in reviewing surveillance footage from this location?
Yes.
Showing you, and 26-8, sorry for the record, was the same exhibit that I had portrayed up on the screen that is in the binder.
Is that correct, sir?
26/9.
26-8.
Oh.
No,
Sorry,
I
sir.
neglected to ask you that.
Yes, it is the same.
Looking at 26-9 is the photograph up on the screen. Exhibit 26-9, the same that's in the binder.
Yes.
Okay, and kind of a square with the words Millete House up in the left corner. Does that accurately indicate where the Millete House is located?
Yes.
And then the house on the right with the two cars in the driveway, there's one, looks like it has a car cover on it. And then a second car just next to it. What residence is that?
That's 24/17 Paseo Los Gatos.
And that retaining wall that we saw in the video, do we see that in this photograph?
Yes.
Could you indicate where it is just for with the laser pointer?
Right here.
So kind of running parallel to where the car is located in front of 24/17 in the driveway, the car that has the car cover on it.
Yes.
Do you know when that picture was taken?
I do not.
Does the photo accurately depict the relation of the Millete house to the house on the corner, 24/17 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
Did you, in reviewing that surveillance footage from 24/17, determine anything with regard to the date or timestamp?
Yes.
What was that?
Yeah, the date and time stamps were accurate. Oh, actually, sorry, we're 8 minutes ahead on this particular video.
So the video footage that you got from 24/17 was 8 minutes ahead of the actual time?
Correct.
Were you able to compare the timing of, were you able to see surveillance footage of the black Lexus that we just observed in the video? Were you able to see that same black Lexus on January 8th from the surveillance footage at 24/17?
Yes.
Showing you 26-10. Do you recognize 26-10 to be the same exhibit as in the binder?
Yes.
And can you tell us what we're looking at in this photograph, or this still photograph?
So this is one of the camera angles from 24/17 Paseo Los Gatos. It's situated above the garage, pointing in a northeasterly direction, or westerly direction, correction.
And so it has a date, timestamp at the bottom, January 8, 2021, 6:53:14 a.m. And it says camera 16 up at the top. When you reviewed the video, are you able to, or did someone look at the video and compare it to real time to determine that it was 8 minutes ahead?
Yes.
And when you look at this particular still, do you see a vehicle consistent with the Lexus?
Yes.
Can you point to that?
So that is in the top left corner. This is going to be the Lexus.
And that's the black vehicle that's the top left corner of the screen.
Correct.
So if I do my math correctly, then if it's 8 minutes ahead, this would be approximately 6:45 in the morning.
Correct.
And the surveillance footage from 338 Calle Quinta.
Correct.
Looking at 26-11, is this another camera angle from 2417 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
This has a date and timestamp of January 8, 2021, 6:53:24 a.m. Camera 1. Do you see the Lexus in this still photo?
Yes. It's the dark SUV at the top of the screen, making the left-hand turn onto Calle Quinta.
And does that further corroborate the timing of the 338 Calle Quinta surveillance footage?
Yes.
And then looking at 26-12, has a date and time stamp January 8, 2021, 6:53:30 a.m. Camera 9. Is this a different angle from 2417 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
And what is the vantage point of this video?
So this vantage point is from an elevated view of the backyard. This points in like a southeasterly direction and captures a portion of Calle La Quinta.
And can you see the Lexus in this video or in this photo?
Yes, this is you'll see the black Lexus at the top right of the screen here.
And this would have been after the Lexus turned left on Calle La Quinta?
Correct.
So it's driving in which direction?
Southeasterly.
Did you review footage from 2409 Paseo Los Gatos from January 7th, 2021?
Yes.
Did you observe that some of the video from that residence captured some individuals at a black Jeep?
Yes.
Showing you 26-13. Is 26-13 up on the screen the same exhibit that's in the binder?
I don't have 13.
26-13?
Not in the binder. It's not in the binder.
Madam Clerk, I perhaps neglected to have these marked 24 additional exhibits for course exhibit 26, 13, 14, 15, and 16.
I do have them in my mind.
Then I forgot to put them in the most important one. I apologize here.
I'm still curious about the surveillance footage from the neighbor that heard the gunshots. If they're gonna use that at all, did they authenticate that? Is maybe they weren't able to, and so they can't use it, but it would be nice if they were able to authenticate it somehow and make
Now
things-
looking at 26-13. Does that appear to be the same exhibit that's depicted on the screen?
Yes.
And do you see 2409 Paseo Los Gatos depicted in this exhibit?
Yes.
It kind of has a little camera icon with a little yellow cone.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the surveillance footage that was recovered from 2409 Paseo Los Gatos?
So 2409 had a Ring, a camera system. Their system is activated when there's motion. So whenever there's motion near the residence, it'll start recording for a certain duration of time, depending on how much movement is in the front of the residence.
And when you reviewed the video from 2409 Paseo Los Gatos, tell us a little bit about what you saw in terms of movement at the Jeep.
So we see a female, we believe is May, and her children at the Jeep.
So what's the date and time of this? What are you talking about?
This is January 7th,
Time?
approximately 3 p.m.
Interesting.
And are there a series of clips from that residence, from the surveillance captured at that residence?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about what those clips depict?
So at approximately 3 o'clock p.m. on January 7th, there's movement in and around the Jeep. You can see May and the children accessing the vehicle and removing items from the Jeep. This continues on till approximately 3:20 p.m.
And then what happens?
And then the video cuts out. Like, we don't have any additional video from 2409 Paseo Los Gatos.
You said that's a Ring camera,
Correct.
and are you familiar with Ring cameras?
Yes.
And so in recovering these clips from the Ring camera, are they kind of, what's the duration of time that's captured on these clips?
Depending on the user settings, it could be from a few seconds to a couple minutes, and it's dependent on the movement that it's sensing based on the user setting.
Looking at 26-14, do you recognize 2614 to be the same exhibit that's in binder?
Yes.
Okay. And there appears to be a black Jeep and a red square that says area of interest. It says ring.com up in the left corner. Can you tell us what we're looking at in this exhibit?
So this is a photo of May's Jeep that's parked along the east curb line of Paseo Los Gatos. The rear hatch of the Jeep is open, and you have a photo of May at the rear of her Jeep.
And then did you also capture a short clip of surveillance footage from 2396 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
And looking up at the screen, do you see 26-15? Is it the same as the exhibit in the binder?
Yes.
And this is appears to be a Google map overview of the area, again with a few residences noted, in particular 2396 Paseo Los Gatos with a camera icon with a yellow cone.
Yes.
And can you tell us what clip or what video footage is captured from 2396 Paseo Los Gatos?
So on January 7th at approximately 3:22 p.m., this security footage from 2396 was a Ring camera. So it captured motion of May's Jeep, which was northbound to westbound Paseo Los Gatos.
And what is the timing of that video clip in relation to the Ring clips that we see at 2409 Paseo Los Gatos?
It's in close relation to approximately 2 minutes from when it's last captured to when the vehicle is moving at 3:22 p.m.
So consistent with May's Jeep leaving the residence at 2413, driving up towards that curve at the top of the screen and turning left.
Correct.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
With the video?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, detective showing you a CD. It's been marked as Courts Exhibit 42, and it says surveillance video, January 7, 2021, multiple camera video of Jeep. And there's some initials and a date in blue. Do you recognize the initials and date?
Yes,
Whose initials are those?
those are mine.
And what's the date?
January 9th, 2023.
And does that indicate that that's the time that you reviewed that exhibit?
Yes.
And can you tell us what that exhibit is?
This is a string of camera angles from 2409 and 2409 Paseo Los Gatos and 2396 Paseo Los Gatos. And these are the movements of May and her Jeep on January 7th at approximately 3 p.m.
January 7th, 2021.
Correct.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I could play Court's Exhibit 42 at this time.
Yes.
And again, same stipulation, I believe that the exhibit I'm playing is a copy of Court's Exhibit 40.
There we go.
One, two, or two lines. I can provide a copy of the transcript report at a later time. I don't have that at this point, but it is embedded into the video. It's one line, so I didn't know if I wanted to do a transcript or one line, one or two lines.
First off, there's stipulation that court order doesn't do his work.
Yeah, everything's taking long with Daybell, Lester.
Stipulation that whatever is said, the court reporter doesn't have to type.
I just stipulated on the video, but not on what it is said or was said.
Is it relevant? Is it a child playing? Is it one of her children?
It is, and I would like to, actually, I would want to ask that not be filmed because the children are in it. But I would like, I have to play it for the court, so.
All right. Okay, I previously discussed that, so the clip with the children will not be played. So do not record that.
So I think what they're talking about is there was a clip of the children playing in the backyard. Hey, Diana.
It is not going to be actually very, it's about one or two lines of a child speaking. It's transcribed on the video, so I think I can certainly also at a later time provide screenshots of that line to the court reporter so she can use that if she's not able to capture it real time as I play it in court. I don't know if that is also agreeable to defense counsel.
I need to see it first. I haven't
You
seen
have
it.
a copy of it?
You have a copy?
Yes, I provided you the media exhibits a week ago.
A week ago?
Yes.
Can you just
Yeah, I
see
noticed
the
that, Mary.
I'm sure you gave her the video earlier than a week.
Oh, well, I mean, the exhibit, yes, earlier than a week ago, yes. I've lost track of time.
Generally, Ms. Martinez, the defense does stipulate that the court does not have to, that the court reporter doesn't have to transcribe audio dialogue that's on the video. The transcript is supplied to the court reporter, then the parties invariably stipulate that the court reporter doesn't have to try and transcribe what is being said in a video recording. And in this case, it's not very much being said, so maybe it's not a burden. But then again, because not very much is being said, I don't see why there's no stipulation.
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, so you stipulate the court reporter doesn't have to record it.
Yes, we'll stipulate.
Okay, excellent. And counsel, you can provide a copy of whatever's on the video to the court at the end of the day.
I'm happy to do that. All right, may I proceed?
You may. Wait a minute, immediate question.
Yes.
I've made an order that children are not going to be photographed.
I understand that. We're wondering if there is a portion of the video we can shoot that shows May, but not the kids. And if we can be given a warning as to, okay, turn the camera away now because the kids are about to appear.
I will ask the people if they can accommodate that. If they can't, grab a look.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I think it's just the children are in and out of the video. It would disrupt the presentation of that evidence to Your Honor to try to do that.
All right, so, sorry, the media request is denied and my prior ruling remains.
All right, so I guess we're not going to be able to see this, and presumably it's May and the children. And forgive me if I missed this, but are they showing the video from outside where they're going in and out of the Jeep, or did they talk about, so that there, I know that there was some video for surveillance discovered of the kids playing in the backyard, but that wouldn't have included May. So no, this is probably the video from them going in, in and out of the Jeep. And I do appreciate that they're not allowing the media to film the kids in these videos. They're being very protective of the children, and I really appreciate that. But I'm still confounded about the surveillance that had the gunshots that we could hear. What happened with that? If anybody in the chat knows, feel free to let me know, because, obviously I don't catch everything that gets filed or not filed or reported on. And I'm super curious because it was such an important part of the early findings, and it was reported. It's either neighbor audio of the kids playing or neighbor video and audio of the kids playing. Liz says there's an audio video of the kids playing in the yard around 10:30 that night. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I remember, Liz. So was it the FBI that said undetermined, or was it, so we're bouncing around a little bit. So when Mary Rose says the FBI said undetermined, I think she's talking about the gunshot sound video. And I thought it was some investigatory agency that said undetermined, but I wasn't sure if it was FBI.
Yes. Okay, beginning again at 26 seconds.
So, I mean, if it's undetermined, can't be used, right? But it sure is, I guess, just for our own public knowledge and awareness, it's very interesting, but it won't be potentially used in the trial, which is interesting. And yeah, that's what, and Liz says there's an audio video of the kids playing in the yard around 10:30 that night. And that's what I remember as well. So I wonder if they're going to play that in the courtroom as well today. I just, these patterns are just so striking to me. You have this guy who, Larry Millete, who backs his car into an open garage in the wee hours of the morning. And, you know,
Faded, and now
a la
we
Chris
see
Watts,
timestamp on the screen of 3
and then does
p.m.
terrible
It's
interviews
also
after.
1 minute 33 seconds in. Can you describe kind of what we just saw and then what we're about to see?
Yeah, that was video of May at the rear of her Jeep, along with one of her daughters.
And is that the full clip of what was captured?
Yes.
And then, again, because it's motion censored, the next clip that that you captured was at 3 p.m.
Correct.
And that's the clip we're about to watch.
Yes.
Playing this second clip at 1 minute 33 seconds.
Mary Rose, I know for sure that it's obvious that that it's gunshots when you hear it, but I think what they weren't able to authenticate was where the gunshots came from. Like they can't specifically say that those gunshots came from Larry's house because the surveillance footage that caught it was from a neighbor's house, and it could have been from another place in the neighborhood, you know. So, and I agree. Somebody else was talking about whether he would plead or not. I agree. I think he's too arrogant. I think he's too cocky. I think he thinks he'll win on appeal. You know, he'll try every appeal process. I think, you know, he's a little bit maybe like a Scott Peterson. You know, forgive me if you think Scott Peterson is innocent. I don't. And I think, you know, Scott Peterson is still, you know, fighting and fighting and fighting as if we didn't see what we saw. So anyway, I'm so glad Lester.
2 minutes 41 seconds
Yeah.
in. We just watched a clip that was at approximately 3 p.m. Was that consistent with a clip that we watched earlier, kind of May, in and around the Jeep?
Yes.
And then now we have a timestamp of 3:03 p.m. up on the screen. We're about to watch and the next clip that the ring captured from that residence.
Yes.
Playing that clip.
Yeah. So I think Larry thinks he deserves to be. Yeah, me too, Liz. I think Larry thinks he deserves to be free, that he was justified in what he did. And so he's going to keep fighting it. And even though he feels he was justified in what he did, he knows that it was against the law. And, you know, so he's going to fight. He's going to use whatever means he has to fight it. The lawyer that he has representing him isn't great. It isn't a great advocate. But that for him could be a potential excuse for you know, a mistrial or an appeal later. That's the way those types of people think, you know. And you have to, you know, it's almost like predictable. It's almost predictable. That's what so many of these criminals have attempted to do.
51 seconds in. There's a timestamp now, 3:13 p.m. The clip we just watched was a clip from the Ring camera, again, consistent with May, and did it appear that there were other people at the Jeep?
Yes.
Did you recognize any of those people?
Yes. They're kids. Sorry, May's daughter,
May's daughter,
Laura May.
and then about to watch
Of course he is, Liz.
3:13 p.m.
Yes.
And similarly, a clip captured from that Ring camera. The same
Yes.
Ring camera. Playing the
I was
video
just going
now,
to say
playing
that.
The video now, resuming.
So if you're just joining us, what's happening right now is the prosecution is showing a series of videos from surveillance footage, from Ring camera footage in the neighborhood of May and her children. And the court has ordered that there be no media footage of May's children during these proceedings, which I think is great. So they're pointing it on the detective that's testifying to the footage and turning off the audio in the courtroom whenever they're playing that footage. Yeah, I covered that. I was watching that Darrell Brooks trial the entire time, and then I did a video about it. He was absolutely shocked that he lost that trial. I mean, it just goes to show you the kind of mind that he has. It was like he thought that he won the jury over. I could tell on his face when they
5 minutes into the video. Can you just tell us what we observed in that clip that we just watched?
So we have May at her Jeep with two of her children in and about the vehicle, and then audio of their 4-year-old son asking to go to the car wash.
Did you see any individuals carrying anything?
asking to go. That's
to and from the
cute.
Jeep?
Yes,
What did you observe in that video?
it appears that they're moving stuff out of the vehicle.
When you say they,
Sorry, May and her children.
And you said stuff, anything in particular that you noted? Just items?
It appeared some sort of box or maybe even a cooler.
and you said May and what? Could you tell who the other person was?
Laura May, her daughter.
That's true, Betty.
And now we have a clip at 3:20 p.m. Similarly, a clip from the ring camera.
Yes.
That was just I forget how many weeks that trial was. It was something like 4 weeks. There was too many weeks of that Darrell Brooks trial, and it was absolutely insane. It was absolutely, it was longer than it needed to be because of his constant interruption. Constant interruption. Constant exceptionalism. Well, I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to do that. The mask wearing, the hearing issues, which kind of reminds me of Larry here in this hearing. He's a sovereign citizen. So every time she said his name, he objected to her saying his name. And then every time, and then he kept trying to bring in motions that had no grounding in the law.
The clip begins at 3:22 p.m. And what is the segment that we see next?
Actually, what was the timestamp when you stopped?
6 minutes, 12 seconds into the video. Well, I've just stopped it now, and I think there's going to be a map coming up on the screen.
So what we're watching is a detective from the Chula Vista Police Department testifying about surveillance footage in the neighborhood that's captured.
Yes.
Video of May and the children, but we can't watch it.
Their neighborhood, 2396, has an icon on it indicating the camera, which we're about to view.
You know what? Actually, as we're going on to another clip, let's take our break. 10:55.
What's the judge ruling? He's saying, are they talking about taking a break? Yeah, okay. Oh, are they just taking a morning break, or are they? Yeah, I think they're just taking a morning break. So, Mary Rose, there's a group of people that consider themselves sovereign citizens, which means that they are not subject to the laws of the government. they don't consider themselves a subject of any law of any government. So he didn't feel that he should have to be ruled. He kept arguing that the state of Wisconsin doesn't have jurisdiction over him because he's a sovereign citizen. And even though he had a license, issued by the state of Wisconsin, and let me just get rid of this. Hold on. He had a license issued by the state of Wisconsin. He has, with his legal name. I think he might have had a passport. Oh, Darrell Brooks. Did you watch the Darrell Brooks? We were talking about the Darrell Brooks trial and how, he was using any possible weird legal argument that he possibly could to try to get out of that hearing or that trial and and sovereign citizen was the one that he tried to use the most, that he's a sovereign citizen. So the judge got you can get a promotion as a judge. I guess you can. I don't know anything about how the hierarchy works in courthouses, but maybe you could get some sort of designation, or you get more supervisory control or responsibility over the courthouse or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, this morning's testimony has been a little bit dry, but at least what they're putting on the record is that's right, Lester. He was on assistance and food stamps, but he's a sovereign citizen. So he took advantage of all of the, amenities of the government, but he's not a subject of its laws. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I think basically what they've been able to establish today on, in all the surveillance footage is that May was very much alive on January 7th. And then, then you have the next morning, in the wee hours of the morning, Larry getting into her Lexus SUV. Remember, they have 4 cars. They have 4 cars. One of them is her Lexus SUV. He gets into her car. He pulls out, and then he backs into the driveway, and the garage is open. And then he pulls out. He acts like he's going to turn right on the, at the corner, but then he turns left, and that's early in the morning, like around 6:45, and then he returns at about 6:45 or 6:30, something like that, in the evening. And that was, after, we know that after that is when JR, the brother, came over, and because they had been trying to get a hold of Larry all day because Larry had left his phone there. He had left his phone at home. He had left his girls at home. May's brother went over there. He said that the only people there were Larry and the kids, and he went up to May's bedroom and knocked on it, tried to open the door. He didn't hear anything. He didn't see any lights under the door. And he said that Larry was dressed in like beach shorts. And at first Larry said he just got back from work, but then he changed the story and said that he had been, driving around with his younger son all day and eating French fries. Yes. So it was Thursday night, Mary, when things happened, when we believe the incident happened between Larry and May. And then it was Friday morning when he left did all of this, did the driving around with the child and came back. And it was Friday evening when when her brother came over and asked about her. And then the next day, more of the family members came over because they weren't hearing from her. And if you remember, if any of you were watching the brother's testimony, the one that went over there, he said that when he left, he turned the corner and he kind of looked. You can see the window of the master bedroom from where he was driving around the corner, and he looked and there was no light on in the room. And Lester, to answer your question about the GPS data for the Lexus, it was turned off. It was disabled. And also just now today, the detective on the stand said that he was able to obtain footage from the Millete home, but key moments, where you would think that there would be footage is missing. I mean, it's just so typical. It's just so typical, right? Last use of May's cell phone was 1:25 a.m., 1/8, and then I believe it was turned off. I wonder if that was Larry using her cell phone. I wonder if that was Larry using the cell phone and sending messages early, or just trying to snoop on her and see what was going on. There were so many crazy moments. There were so many. Yeah, we're on a break, Green Eyes. If anybody's joining us, they are on a quick break, probably for about the next 7 minutes or so. We've been hearing, hello, Violet. Hello. So just to recap, all morning, there's a detective from the Chula Vista Police Department has been on the stand testifying about the video surveillance that he's obtained from around the neighborhood and from the Millete home. And hold on just a sec. And they showed footage of Larry's car being backed into the garage in the early morning hours of July. Oh my God. Of January 8th. Leaving and then coming back 12 hours later. I guess Benina must have rescheduled her appointments. Yeah. So they also showed some surveillance footage from, other neighbor Ring camera perspectives. And he testified that he wasn't able to get key moments of surveillance footage from the Millete family home surveillance. And then they showed some surveillance footage they showed a picture of May next to the car, next to her Jeep, about to go and load and unload things from it with the kids, but they didn't show the audio or video of the kids with her doing the unloading and loading and unloading. And all of that was on January 7th, the afternoon, like right around between like 3:15, 3:30 time frame. So that shows proof of life that she was alive on January 7th, at least at the time of 3:30 in the afternoon. And then after that, nobody hears from her, and she had been in communication with people, preparing to go on this snowboarding trip that she had planned for her daughter, and everything just kind of cut off. And then again, after that footage of her and her kids loading and unloading in her Jeep, later that evening into the early hours of the morning, Larry backs her car into the garage and leaves, and then comes back. And yes, the navigation system had been disabled. Larry left his phone at the house. He brought his 4-year-old son with him. He left his 2 11 and 9-year-old daughters alone at the house all day, and he had no form of communication, no way of getting a hold of them unless he was using somebody else's phone. I know. I feel like there's all kinds of ways that he looks guilty circumstantially. Somehow he was able to get rid of the body with, no trace of it. I'm really curious about whether there was some sort of, DNA or anything, any trace evidence left in the freezer. If our, theory is correct that he put her in this freezer in question that was eventually found at his aunt and uncle's house, then maybe there's some, maybe a cadaver dog hit on that, or maybe there's some evidence found in there. But I find it interesting that he wouldn't have just gotten rid of that freezer too, or maybe they thought that they needed to keep it to say that, they still have it. I don't know. But it's a little bit nerve-wracking to think that just because they haven't found her, like if Larry does not get convicted on this, it'll encourage whoever out there in the world is thinking along these lines of maybe I'll just get rid of her. Maybe I'll just get rid of her. Oh, well, as long as I'm able to very carefully dispose of the body, then I won't get convicted. I won't get caught. I'll just have to spend a little bit of time in jail until they try me. I mean, that's just a really scary thought. That's kind of what's happening in the Barry Morphew case too, right? They had him in jail for a time with charges, and then there was some, for lack of a better word, fuckery that appeared to happen in the investigation, and that fuckery got him out of jail. I just can't, and Suzanne Morphew has never been found. Still has never been found. And, both of those two guys to me look like there's just clear consciousness of guilt. And Suzanne Morphew's family has come out, and he's not, Barry Morphew is not completely off the hook, but he's been given kind of a second, like a second wind. If he didn't have the money to get himself out on bond, like what happened was, Liz, he was being held without bond, but when they found that there was some investigative fuckery, they changed it so that he was given a bond, and he was very easily able to pay that bond and get out. So he's out on bond now while they're trying to still prepare for his trial. Betty says, Lynn, you mentioned Larry's slick back hair resembling Johnny Depp's. If he starts eating gummy bears, I will totally freak out. I was just making an offhand comment. It looks like Larry's been putting his hair back like that for some time. So I don't think it's really a Johnny Depp thing. I think I've never seen you before. True Jedi Forever. I kind of like that name. True Jedi Forever. Welcome. Anyway, so I'm just real curious about how these are two very important, quote unquote, nobody cases that are before us right now. So we'll have to see how these work out. I mean, it'll be interesting if, you know, the science, the technology around the science of DNA and, you know, investigative sciences are coming to a point where they're able to prove these things beyond a reasonable doubt without a body. You know, I mean, it just feels to me like so much of what they're testifying on with Larry is undeniable, or is like just consciousness of guilt. True Jedi Fever, haven't caught you live since Petito. You have such thoughtful, great content. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have this channel that I have here is a little bit bifurcated because I do a lot of pre-recorded content, and a lot of the pre-recorded content is a little bit more about it. It doesn't focus totally on true crime. It's more about social, cultural news and events and things that happen, and evaluating that through the lens of how social media affects it, or also giving kind of PR analysis, because my career was in public relations, and I think I look at practically everything through that lens of, especially since we're on YouTube, you know, like through the lens of how does their public image come across? Is their public image coming across the way they want it to come across? Is there an interview that they did where I can analyze and show that, you know, there's better ways to do this interview, that type of thing. So I like to do PR analysis of interviews, but my real mission on this channel is to help people understand how social media impacts our daily lives and how you can cope with it, you know. And I think it's much, much bigger than we, you know, tend to understand individually. It's a kind of a systemic issue, because social media, you know, it's a business and they need us to pay as much attention. Oh, bifurcated. Bifurcated is just divided. It's almost like a medical term. It's divided to two different. So, and I didn't give like the so it's bifurcated between like pre-recorded videos about, you know, where I do PR analysis, or I talk about, you know, social cultural events. But I also have a very deep interest in true crime. And I'm not only interested in true crime, I'm interested in how true crime is covered on social media, because again, social media puts this extra layer on true crime where people want to pick apart the true crime like vultures and not treat the victims like real victims, you know? And so I cover not only true crimes that I'm interested in, like this one, but I cover the way true crime is covered on social media, which makes me a little bit angry about how social media is ravaging the way that victims are treated in true crime cases, because the incentives are to make money any way possible, and there are people who know no bounds for how they're willing to use people's story. So like there you know there are people on YouTube who would never ever think to take out the children in the video that we just saw played in the, you know, that was going to be played in the court. It wouldn't even cross their minds. And not only would they not take the children out, they would, you know, pick apart every single bit of the children's movements. And, you know, it's a vulture culture. Vulture culture. Oh my gosh, I just came up with that. It's a vulture culture. Seriously. Now I'm not putting this across the board on all true crime coverage on social media. I swear I'm not. But there is a element of true crime coverage on social media that is vulture culture. I need to write that down. So they haven't started things back up yet here. No. I know. I'm really, Lester says, I'm really just wondering how he got away with leaving kids that young home alone on an entire typical school day. My kids' schools would be on that right away of them not being, oh, well, it was during COVID. So they were homeschooling. It was when people were, it was while that like school was still doing teleschooling. So yeah, it is culture. I should make a second channel called Culture Vultures and just like it be a clip channel and like vulture culture. It's a true crime is, you know, just again, I just want to reiterate it's YouTube is vast. There's a lot of true crime coverage, okay? And there are many, many, many fantastic true crime channels. There are some true crime channels, though, that don't give a crap, one fuck about the victims, about justice, about, you know, and they will do anything to exploit it. And I mean, if you just look at the coverage of the Idaho 4, you will see that. Violet, you know, it's okay. I don't even remember exactly how you were rude to me, but many people were rude. You're not alone. All right, we're back. Hold on.
Had recovered some of the residential from some of the residences in Milete's neighborhood. And where we left off, I believe, this is at 6 minutes, 15 seconds into the
Probably
video,
Lester.
and we see, I think you had identified already that 2396 Paseo Los Gatos has a bit of a camera icon with a yellow cone. And are we about to see a clip from that location?
Yes.
And what will we see in this video clip?
You'll see May's Jeep.
Can you speak up, sir?
Sorry. You'll be seeing May's Jeep northbound on Paseo Los Gatos and make the turn right in front of the residence to go westbound on Paseo Los Gatos.
So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip now. Your Honor, there are no children in this particular clip. So I don't have any objection if this portion is filmed. I already had let the media know that.
All right, no children, it's fine.
That's good, Lester.
That clip ends at 6:27, 6 minutes, 27 seconds in. And just referencing back to the time that we had indicated before we broke, that was at about 3:22 p.m., is that right?
Correct.
And then at 4:42 p.m., which is what's showing up on the screen right now, what camera angle are we about to see footage from in the next clip?
You're going to see video footage from 338 Calle La Quinta, and this is going to be May's Jeep returning back to the residence on January 7th,
And
2021.
And this is the same camera angle that we saw earlier when we watched some footage of the Lexus.
Yes.
So playing the video now at 6 minutes, 27 seconds into the exhibit time, but with 4:42 p.m. being the time stamp at the next.
It's called projection, Lester. Okay, so I guess they're showing footage right now that has the kids in it, so we can't see it or hear it. But Lester says, I'm just shocked that this guy's case stands on how bad a parent May was, according to him, yet he is a horrible guardian parent. I agree. I mean, but that's what's so sinister, and that's how the brainwashing happens. You know, you take a guy like Larry, everything that he is accusing May of, with possible exception to an affair, he's done. You know, like he's the person who's acting the worst in the relationship, but he's putting that all on her. So he's taking all the things that are in his head and he's putting them on her. We don't know if he had an affair or cheated on her, but that's what goes through the minds of somebody. They think anything that I'm thinking or feeling, they're thinking or feeling, and then they put it on them.
Yes. Yes.
What is that yellow circle indicating?
That's May exiting her Jeep.
And as we continue to watch the video, is that yellow circle going to track May's movements?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to continue playing now at 7 minutes, 37 seconds into the video.
So, yeah. And it seems like Larry's parents did the majority of the care, and then they move out right before Christmas, and then May goes missing. Was that planned? I doubt anybody would ever be able to prove that, but it's just another question in the whole, timeline. But I was talking about before about projection. So a lot of times what you'll see is the person who's accusing other people of being all these ways, that's actually what they're doing, and they think and they're able to convince other people that other people are doing it, and they're able to convince people that they are the victim of the behavior that they are doing to other people. That's why it's surreal. It's surreal. It's so hard for any third party who's going to try to come in and, like, law enforcement on a call
at 8 minutes, 45 seconds.
Or or a therapist or a friend, any third party who's going to try to come in and mediate and try to provide some sort of, like I said,
Did you or someone from your team watch the surveillance footage from the 338 Cayo Quinta vantage point from that time that May walks into the house at about 4:45 p.m. on January 7th, 2021, until the police arrive on January 10th at approximately 12:45 in the morning?
Yes.
And at any time, does anyone see May leave the house?
No.
And you've watched that video?
Yes.
And other members of your team have watched that video?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier there was a 7-minute gap in time from I think you said 12:27 a.m. to 12:34 a.m. on January the 8th. Did you also review the footage from 2417 Paseo Los Gatos?
Yes.
And there were multiple camera angles from that residence, correct?
Correct.
That's the residence as you look at the Millete's house to the right?
Yes.
And was that continuous footage?
That was continuous.
And when did you have that continuous footage from?
From January 7th through January 8th.
And did you or someone from your team review that video in its entirety?
Yes.
Counsel, when you ask him if someone from the team viewed it, I need to know who it is, because he has indicated, I think he just said, as to the footage from the 7th at 4:45 p.m. until the 10th, until 12:45 a.m., he has viewed all of that. Because you were asking somewhat of a compound question. He or someone on his team.
Let me start over.
And
Did
okay, because I want to know. It's important that he does not speak for some anonymous person.
Did you watch the video from 338 Calle Quinta from the time that May walks into the house until the police arrive on January 10th?
Yes,
Do you see May leave the house?
I do not.
Did other people from your team review portions of that video?
Yes.
Who reviewed the other portions of the video?
So Detective Ruiz, Detective Rosario, Detective Gardea reviewed portions of it, and I reviewed it again in its entirety.
And the three officers that you listed, they reported to you that they didn't see it.
Yes.
And then who reviewed the video footage from 24/17?
Detective McIver and Detective Ruiz.
And did you speak with them in preparation for testifying today?
Yes.
And did either of them see May leave the house after January 7th, 4:45 p.m.?
No.
Did you review in particular the 7 minutes that were not available on the 338 surveillance footage?
Yes.
And is there any indication of May leaving the house?
No.
In reviewing the video on January the 9th, do you see who later came to know as May's father, Pablito, arriving at the house on January the 9th, Saturday?
Yes.
What time was that?
Approximately 11:40 a.m.
January 9th, 2021.
Yes, correct.
Later that same day, Saturday, January 9th, 2021, did you notice the defendant, his movements at all on that day?
Yes.
What did you observe?
At approximately 1:41 p.m., Larry gets into the Lexus and drives off, and then returns approximately 6 minutes later. He does this again at approximately 3:15 and is gone for 5 minutes and returns.
When he returns that second time, did you observe his movements in the neighborhood?
Yes.
What does he do?
Approximately 3:30 p.m., he walks over to his neighbor's house at 338 Calle La Quinta and has a conversation with them.
And can you actually hear the conversation, the audio conversation in the video surveillance?
Yes.
Can you hear Larry's voice?
Yes.
What can you hear Larry say?
He essentially asks his neighbor to detail his car, the Lexus specifically, because it was scratched during a Anza Borrego Jeep trip.
And again, for the record, all of these, okay, this is from footage from 24/17 Paseo Los Gatos.
No, this is footage from 338 Calle La Quinta.
All the questions that you've just been asking are about 338.
Yes. Well, all the questions. So.
I mean, since about the dates, we went into this current line of questioning that you've just been on for the last.
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize if that wasn't clear. The observations you made on January the 9th that you just testified to with regard to, for example, May's father arriving at 11:40 a.m., was that from the surveillance footage from 338 Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
And then the observations of the defendant's movements that afternoon, also 338 Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
And then the testimony you just gave about the conversation that the defendant had with his neighbor or neighbors was that also at 338 Calle La Quinta?
Yes.
And specifically, what did you recall the defendant saying about why he needed the Jeep, or I'm sorry, why he wanted to have the Lexus detailed?
He stated that it was scratched during a Jeep trip to Anza Borrego.
And what does detailing mean?
Detailing is when you clean your car thoroughly. You wax and polish it to remove any imperfections that are on the vehicle.
In the course of this investigation, about how many witnesses would you say you spoke to?
Hundreds of witnesses.
And that would include also the other 3 members of your team. Did they also speak with witnesses?
Yes.
Did you speak with someone by the name of Carla Navarrete Ocampo?
Yes.
And who is Miss Ocampo?
She is a tutor for Larry and May's youngest daughter.
And did you talk to her in the course of the investigation?
Yes.
And what did she tell you?
She told me that she has been tutoring for approximately 2 years, and she regularly shows up to the house on Tuesdays and Thursdays from approximately 5:15 p.m. to 6:15 p.m.
Did you identify her after seeing her car arrive on January 7th in one of the surveillance videos?
Yes.
And did Ms. Ocampo indicate whether or not she normally communicated with the defendant or with May?
She normally communicated with May.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering,
So
Lester.
to direct him to Exhibit 34, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as Court's Exhibit 34, do you recognize what's shown in that exhibit?
Yes.
What is that?
It is a text message string between May and the tutor.
And specifically, had there been arrangements made for the tutor to come to the house
Yes.
the week of January the 4th?
Yes.
And it appears this is a screenshot of text message string. Can you tell whose, there's some blue bubbles and black bubbles in this text exchange. Whose text is the blue?
Blue is the tutor.
And the black is?
May.
And so there's, just directing your attention to the bottom of this text string, January 5th at 2:07 p.m. There's a blue text, and that would have been from the tutor.
Yes.
And just project this up on the screen. It's Court's Exhibit 34, the same exhibit that's in the minor.
Yes.
And just kind of as the top of the text exchange, is this all kind of communication about tutoring for her daughter, Meilani?
Yes.
Can you give us a general kind of summary of what the exchange is kind of prior to January the 5th?
So prior to January 5th, that was when they were having, it was during COVID. So the kids were having to have remote learning. And they essentially are trying to get in-person tutoring in early January.
So they hadn't been having tutoring because of COVID, and on January 5th, does the tutor indicate that she's now able to resume in-person tutoring?
Yes.
And so the text specifically from the tutor, and this is not being offered for the truth, but to provide context to the discussion, that after seeing that not much has changed since the COVID alert we received in terms of all the guidelines, we can start tutoring in person again if you would like. I'm not sure when Meilani goes back to school, but I can start as soon as you want. And then the black texts are from May, say, oh, she'd love that. How about Thursday? And did the tutor indicate to you that this was her text exchange with May?
Yes.
Okay. And then did Ms. Ocampo indicate that she had plans because of this text exchange to come to the house on January the 7th to tutor Meilani?
Yes.
Did you also speak with a neighbor by the name of Heather Tootle?
Yes.
Who is Heather Tootle?
Heather Tootle lives on the next street to the east at 2385 Plaza Eva. And she also heard about May missing, so she began reviewing her security footage.
Showing you Courts Exhibit 28-1.
I hope this is the gunshot.
That's what, can you slow down a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
The big face.
28-1. Do you see that exhibit in the binder?
Yes.
And is that the same exhibit that's projected up on the screen?
It is.
What are we looking at?
So this is a overview map. You have the Millete household indicated there at the top with the top yellow box, and then you have 2385 Plaza Eva, and that is where just below it to the south, and that's where Heather Tootle lives.
And did Ms. Tootle provide you with, did someone from that residence provide you with some video surveillance?
Yes.
Okay, and was that surveillance footage, tell us about what that was. They provided it.
So they provided me with audio on January 7th, 2021 at approximately 10:34 p.m. Of audio of kids playing in the backyard.
Yeah, I remember that. But no gunshots because that happened beforehand. I guess they're not going to put that in.
Kids playing in the backyard. Located where?
Located at, let me be more specific. So she captures audio on her security footage. She hears the kids playing and she recognizes them as the Millete children.
So to be just kind of clear here, the 2385 Plaza Eva would be kind of back behind the Millete house, catty corner.
Yes.
And her surveillance video has captures audio.
Yes.
And she discovered that she had audio from January 7th, 2021 at about 10:34 p.m.
Yes.
And recognized that the audio of the voices that she heard in the audio.
Yes.
Did she say specifically who she heard?
She did not.
Did she say she had heard the children playing before?
Yes.
Did you also speak with the defendant's boss at the time, a man by the name of Terry Fonville?
Yes.
And when did you speak with him?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Did you recall about what month?
Pretty
I
late
don't
at night to
recall.
be playing outside.
Can I refer to my report?
Yes.
School night.
Yes. Do you have a copy of your report in front of you?
I do.
Okay, why don't you take a look at that and then look up when you had a chance to review the report description.
Court reporter review. Interesting.
September 16th, 2021.
And in the course of that, who did you interview Mr. Fonville with?
With District Attorney Investigator Matt Grimley.
And during that interview, where did that interview take place?
It took place at the Balboa Medical Center.
And is that your understanding of where the defendant worked at the time?
Yes.
And Terry Fonville was his supervisor, his boss?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that Mr. Fonville and the defendant communicated via text to some degree?
Yes.
And did Mr. Fonville provide you with copies of screenshots of text messages between he and the defendant between January 2nd, 2021 and January 17th, 2021?
He allowed me to look through his phone and I was able to take photos of his communications with the defendant.
During that time frame?
Correct.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor, to direct him to Court's Exhibit 11?
Yes.
Same here, Lester, when my kids were that age. especially a 4-year-old.
Looking at courts 11, 11-1 through 11-10, do you recognize the photographs in those exhibits?
Yes.
What do you recognize those to be?
Those are the photos that I took of Mr. Fonville's cell phone, which depicts him and Larry's conversations.
And are those in 11-1 through 11-10, are those fair and accurate copies of the photos of the screenshots that you took of the text messages on Mr. Fonville's phone?
Yes.
Going back to and just to be clear then, 11-1, these text messages that you took photographs of, they begin on January 2nd, 2021,
Yes.
and then go through January 6th, 2021 on Courts Exhibit 11-7.
Yes.
And then they skip then to January 9th, 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the last one, the last date that your screenshots depict on 11-10 would be January 17th, 2020.
Correct.
When you observed the surveillance video, I'm gonna jump again to back to your observations of the surveillance video from 338 Coyote Quintet. Did you, or any other surveillance footage, did you ever observe the timing of when May's brother, JR, arrived at the house on January 8th, 2021?
Yes.
And what time was that?
Approximately 6:30 p.m.
Do you recall which camera or which residence the surveillance footage you observed?
That was from 338 Calle La Quinta.
I've just got a few more questions for you, Detective. We heard some testimony from January 23rd, a search warrant that was executed on January 23rd, 2021 at the Millete residence. Were you part of that search warrant?
Yes.
And you're familiar with David Garber, who collected some swabs of evidence from that location?
Yes.
And
Swabs.
did you learn that he collected a swab of a substance from the bathroom?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of what was collected?
It was blood from the bathroom.
Did you or someone, detective on your team, request that be analyzed?
Yes, Detective McIver sent it off to a request to the Sheriff's Crime Lab.
And you've spoken to Detective McIver in preparation for testifying today?
Yes.
And is the San Diego Sheriff's Department the crime lab utilized by the Chula Vista Police Department?
Yes.
What were the results of that examination?
It did presumptively test. It did test positive for blood, but in talking with the Sheriff's Crime Lab, that they were able to analyze the DNA of that blood, and it was not May's or Larry's.
That's weird. Hey, Amelia.
Did you, in the course of your investigation, also check to determine if there had been any sightings of May Millete at the borders?
Yes.
And how did you conduct border checks?
Detective Ruiz conducted several records checks, and that was also double checked by our partners with the FBI.
And did you speak to somebody to determine whether or not there had been any evidence of May leaving the country speaking with someone at the FBI?
No.
Did you speak with somebody at the FBI to verify these border checks?
Yes.
What did you do?
I spoke to Monica Williams, and who is a Customs Border Protection officer assigned to the FBI task force, and she conducted records checks of Larry May and the vehicles, and there was no current crossings.
When you say current, what time frame were you looking at?
January of 2021.
Did the Chula Vista Police Department, in the course of this investigation, receive tips from the community?
Yes.
About how many tips would you say the Chula Vista Police Department received?
Hundreds of tips.
Some of those came in from community members,
Yes.
psychics,
Yes.
concerned citizens,
Yes.
and did you oversee the kind of follow-up on these tips?
Yes.
How did you do that?
Any tip that came through, if there was a lead or a contact, I would reach out or have one of my partners reach out and see if there was any evidence indicating that that tip was valid.
And since you began your investigation, which would have been what day, would you say? Is that January 11th, 2021?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a detective from the
You spoke with
Chula Vista
hundreds of
PD.
witnesses?
Yes.
Have you written or assisted in the execution of search warrants related to this case?
Yes.
About how many?
Approximately 30.
30 that you wrote?
Sorry, there was about 30 search warrants by Chula Vista PD.
In total, about how many for the entire investigation that you're aware of?
Approximately 60.
And you followed up on hundreds of tips?
Yes.
And to date, has there been one credible sighting of Millete since you walked into her residence on Paseo Los Gatos on January 7th, 2021 around 4:45 p.m.?
No.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, cross-examination.
They're gonna go ahead and jump into cross-examination.
You said you checked your borders for January for crossings?
Yes.
Which borders?
According to their database, they would check any crossings outbound from the United States. So flights, if there was a pedestrian crossing, that should show up in their system.
All right, so not only just the California OTI border, but even into Arizona.
Yes.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Yana. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
During the course of your investigation, did you see Miss Milete's vehicle coming out of Mexico?
No.
Isn't it true that there was a camera that was captured showing Miss Millete in her vehicle leaving the border of Mexico, coming back into the United States?
No.
Counsel.
No.
Questions.
How could
And
that?
so- and so-
How could that be? All the cars were left at
On
home.
or, I'm sorry.
It's vague as to time.
Yes,
It could be any time, so I need
Okay.
to know
I'm
what the
sorry.
time frame is for your question.
On or about January the 4th, 2021, do you recall seeing a camera footage of Miss Millete in her vehicle driving alone, entering the United States from Mexico?
And which vehicle are you talking about?
Excuse me.
Which vehicle are you
Oh,
talking
vehicle.
about?
I'm sorry.
I want a very specific question.
Okay. Did you see her in her Lexus?
No.
The black Lexus. Okay. Did any of your officers mention that in any of the reports?
I am familiar with a border crossing on January, not a border crossing, a records check on January 4th, but that was not a crossing. Do you have the photo so I can refresh my memory?
Okay, just a second, let me see.
Oh my gosh. And what would a January 4th border crossing do?
I don't have it.
Oh, of course she doesn't have it.
What do you mean by border
I
crossing?
think we can try, I think my assistant will try to find it in the computer. And
Okay.
let me just
What,
proceed with the
my
question.
question's going to be, what do you know? Tell me about this January 4th border crossing that you just referenced.
So in conducting records checks with Customs and Border Protection, there are records of Larry and May and her vehicle, but there is no record of her crossing back in from Mexico. I believe that the January 4th incident that you're referring to is May in her Jeep being contacted at the Campo Border Patrol Station as she's coming back from their New Year's celebration in Glamis. That is a stateside record. That is them coming back home from the desert.
Were you the one who actually verified that, or was it one of the members of your team?
Initially, it was one of my members from my team, and I double checked it.
How far is that from the border?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Estimate.
Yeah. 25 miles.
I mean, the desperation is just, you could cut it with a knife.
Were you part of the initial team that went into the Millete residence on January the 10th, 2021?
I was not part of the team on January 10th.
When was the first time you actually physically entered Mr. Millete's residence? What date?
That would be January 11th.
Did you have an occasion to speak to Larry Millete at that time?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
When you went into Mr. and Mrs. Millete's residence on January 11, 2021, did you speak with Mr. Millete?
I did.
Counsel, can you pull the microphone closer to you?
I'm sorry.
So make sure we're getting your sound.
Okay. It's not. Okay. Can you hear me better?
Elaine.
Is that better, yeah?
Did you see that detective's eye roll?
Did you also have an occasion on the same day to speak to anyone else besides Mr. Millete when you were there at their residence on January 11, 2021?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
At the time, January 11, 2021, you physically went to the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Millete. Besides Mr. Millete, did you speak to any other person at that time?
Are you referring to at the residence?
Yes.
I didn't speak to anyone else at the residence. other than Larry.
Yeah, Bolane.
When you spoke to Mr. Millete, can you describe his demeanor?
Yeah, he was calm, cooperative, didn't seem too concerned.
Did you ask him if he was looking for his wife?
Yes,
Did he tell you that he called his wife 13 times on January the 8th, 2021?
I don't remember how many times he said he called her.
And did he tell you that he keeps calling her during the entire night of January the 9th?
Yes,
And after that, he continued to call her so many times. Did you obtain some of those those text messages that Mr. Millete had done to try to find his wife?
Calling and sending texts
I
is
did
not
try to
find your
look
wife.
through his phone messages, and there were no messages prior to January 9th.
Were you able to read some of his text messages to his wife during that time between January 8th, 2021 until end of January 2021?
I was able to, but I noticed that on his phone, there were no prior messages to January 9th. He told me that he had to delete those messages between him and his wife to save storage space on his phone.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
During the time you went to see Mr. Millete, isn't it true that you took his cell phone from him?
I did not take his cell phone on January 11th. He consented to his phone download on January 13th.
He did not hesitate to give you that information, right?
No.
We're actually going to break. We're going to recess.
That was interesting. I never knew that they he is so lame. Larry is so lame. So he deleted the messages from between him and his wife before January 9th, knowing that she went missing January 7th. And I needed to delete them because of storage. So wait a minute. Your wife is missing. You need to free up some storage on your phone. So the messages you choose to delete are the ones between you and this missing person. Yeah. Sending a bunch of staged texts to your wife and making a bunch of phone calls to your wife when you know that she's not missing is not proof that you're concerned. Anyway, I will see you guys in the afternoon when they come back, 1:30. I got some stuff to do around here, and yeah, exactly. The last thing that's going to save up a room on your phone are deleting text messages unless they're full of pictures and stuff. It's just crazy. I mean, there's just like the buildup is just, and I didn't know that the blood that they found in the bathroom didn't match either Larry or May. So that's interesting. All right. See you all later. Thank you for being here. Remember to hit the thumbs up, consider becoming a member, and have a lovely break.